Hello, hello. Welcome to English Extras. My name is Jean. If you're here, it's because you don't want to sound like a textbook. You're in the right place. This podcast is to help intermediate and advanced learners find alternatives to textbook English so you can express yourself authentically. Before we begin, if you want the transcript for this episode, you can follow the link in the description. Reading and listening at the same time is a great way to improve your English. And I also include definitions of words and phrases I use in the episode, as well as example sentences at the end of each transcript. Ready? Let's begin. Today's topic is conversation fillers. Conversation fillers, in linguistics, it's also known as discourse markers, are words or phrases that have many purposes. Conversation fillers can help start a conversation, maintain a conversation, clarify what we say, better show our opinion, or make our words softer. Conversation fillers do other things as well, but for this episode, we're going to talk about the 5 ways I just mentioned. Keep in mind, you might hear some words or phrases repeated for different uses because many conversation fillers are flexible. Let's start with the first way to use conversation fillers, and that is to help start a conversation. Words we use to begin a conversation include so, well, okay, right, hey, and listen. These are not all the ways to start a conversation, but these are very common. Let's look at some examples. So, I saw this great movie last night. Well, that was interesting, don't you think? Okay, what's the plan? Right, let's get going. Hey, I thought that was you. How's it going? Listen, I want to talk about last night. Those are ways to start a conversation, but we also have words and phrases to maintain a conversation by changing the topic or showing that we are paying attention. If you want to change the topic, you can use some of the same words for starting a conversation, such as so, well, and right. But you can also use anyway and now. I use now often in my podcasts to signal a change in topic, even if it is just a small change. Let's look at some examples of these. So, should we talk about your day now? Well, let's talk about something else. Right, that's enough of that topic. What about your plans for the weekend? Anyway, I was thinking about that new restaurant for dinner tonight. What do you think? Now, if you want to talk about that, that's a whole other conversation. There are also noises, words, and phrases we use to show that we are paying attention. This is an important part of a conversation, but there can be a lot of different ways to do it. You can say, uh-huh, mm-hmm, right, yeah, okay, I see, oh, sure, really, exactly, got it. Let's take a closer look at some of these. Noises like uh-huh and mm-hmm show that you are paying attention to what someone is saying. They are often said during a pause in someone's speech. But pay attention to your tone and facial expressions. Noises like uh-huh and mm-hmm can seem rude if your tone or facial expression is bored or uninterested. Words like right, yeah, okay, and I see can all show that you understand what someone is saying. These are often accompanied with nodding your head. Words like sure and exactly show that you agree with what someone is saying. Words like oh and really usually show surprise, although oh is very flexible and the meaning can change a lot depending on the tone. The phrase got it is typically used when someone is explaining something to you, such as directions or instructions. And you can say this to show you understand their explanation. Next, let's take a look at some ways that we can clarify our opinions. While we are speaking, we are also listening to what we are saying. In linguistics, this is called monitoring. And sometimes we want to slightly change how our opinion sounds. This happens all the time in spoken language as we constantly adapt our words to try and match our meaning in the best way. Some of these filler phrases are more common in some generations than others. For example, the filler phrase, I mean, is more common for people under the age of 50 to say than for people over the age of 50 to say. Of course, this isn't a firm rule, just a generalization. Phrases you can use to further explain yourself include, I mean, to be honest, actually, basically, in fact, to be clear, and in my opinion. Let's start with the phrase, I mean. This phrase can be used in a lot of different ways. Typically, it's used to show you want to rephrase what you just said in order to avoid a misunderstanding. Like in this example. Oh, that dress is fine. I mean, it's great. I just think the other one is better. Many young people, however, use I mean frequently as a way to continue their thoughts. So you can use it in this way as well. The phrase to be clear can also be used to clarify what you said before, like this. Oh, that dress is fine. I mean, it's great. I just think the other one is better. But to be clear, you look amazing either way. This phrase is a way to make sure that the other person understands the difference. The phrase to be honest is a way to add sincerity to your opinion. It can often be used to signal that your opinion is something like a confession, meaning that maybe it's something you don't really want to say, but you feel like you should say. For example, if someone asks, "What do you think about this?" and you don't really want to give your honest opinion, but you think you should anyway, you can say, "To be honest, I don't really like it." However, to be honest can also just be used to emphasize your opinion in general. If you really want to emphasize that something is your personal opinion and not a general fact, you can use the phrase, "in my opinion." This phrase makes it clear that what you are saying is from your perspective only. So you can also use the phrase "from my perspective." This achieves the same result as "in my opinion." The word actually is a way to correct something said previously. For example, if you gave a positive opinion and then changed your mind, you can use actually to signal that you changed your mind. For example, if someone asks you, "Did you still want to go to that new restaurant for dinner?" and you changed your opinion, you can answer, "Actually, can we go to McDonald's instead?" Actually can also be used to signal that the information previously said was incorrect, either totally or partially. For example, if someone says, "Your brother seems really nice," and he isn't really your brother, you can answer, "Actually, he's my cousin. But yeah, he is really nice." The word basically is used to summarize your point. Basically is usually used when you've spent a long time explaining your point, and when you realize a more efficient way to say it, you can use basically to signal that. For example, if you spend several minutes trying to explain to someone why Iron Man is your favorite superhero, but you realize you've been talking too much about it, you can say, "Basically, he's the best because he's smarter than everyone else." Finally, the phrase "in fact" is not as common in American English, in my experience anyway, as in other languages, but it is still very natural to use this phrase. In fact, is used to add a layer of certainty to your statement, like adding strength, especially if what you said is based on strong evidence. For example, if someone says, "You look terrible, so you must not be sleeping very well," but this isn't true, you can use actually to correct their statement, and then, in fact, to add strength to the evidence you have. Like this. "Actually, I've been sleeping fine. In fact, I slept 10 hours last night." That's a lot of information, so let's move on to filler phrases we can use to express our attitude or point of view. These phrases can include frankly, unfortunately, luckily, to be fair, and fair enough. There are actually a lot of ways to add flavor to expressing your point of view, but we'll have to start with just these or we'll be here forever. The word frankly is a way to signal that you are about to give a direct, blunt opinion that probably the other person will not like. It's just like using "to be honest," but a little stronger. For example, if someone is asking you what you think about something, and you know that your opinion will not be well received, you can say, "Frankly, I hate it." Of course, tone can make this softer, but if you're going to use a word like frankly, then you probably don't care about sounding rude. The word unfortunately is a way to signal that what you're about to say is negative and you feel a bit bad about it. So you can say, "Unfortunately, we did not make our goals for this quarter, but we can try harder next quarter." The opposite of this is fortunately or luckily. In my opinion, these two can be used the same way. If something happened that was positive and maybe a little unexpected, you can say, "It started raining cats and dogs, but fortunately, I remembered to bring my umbrella." The other two phrases, "to be fair" and "fair enough," sound like they should have the same meaning because they both use the word fair. But actually, they are a bit different. The phrase "to be fair" is used to try to show balance. For example, if you don't really agree with the other person, but you know they are right, at least a little bit, you can use this phrase to show that. So, if your child got in trouble at school, but it was for a reason you somewhat agree with, you can say, "You cannot call people stupid. But to be fair, that kid was pretty stupid. You just can't say it, okay?" The phrase "fair enough" is similar, but it's typically used to show that you accept or understand the other person's point of view, even if you don't fully agree with it. I use this expression a lot, to be honest. So if someone shares an opinion that you don't agree with, but you're willing to accept it and you don't want to argue with the other person about it, you can say, yeah, fair enough. Okay, last category. Let's talk about some conversation fillers that are used to soften your language. When I say soften, I mean to make something less direct, which can be seen as being more polite. If you think that someone might be offended or angry with you because of your words, these phrases can add some space so the person isn't so angry or so offended. These phrases include kind of, sort of, maybe, perhaps, just, and a little, a bit. The phrases kind of and sort of are interchangeable, and in spoken English, the of often changes to an sound. So kind of sounds like kinda, and sort of sounds like sorta. These phrases are used to make your sentence less strong. It can be a way to sound more humble by adding a small amount of uncertainty. The phrases a little and a bit can achieve the same effect. For example, if you want to show that someone's explanation is confusing, but you don't want to offend the person, you can say, I'm kinda confused, or I'm a bit confused. All four of these phrases can make the statement softer. The words maybe and perhaps are ways to make suggestions more polite. If you want to suggest something without being too direct, you can say, maybe we can go to the bookstore later, or perhaps we can talk about this now instead of later. Both of these words leave space in the conversation to discuss the idea more. Finally, the word just. The word just is a way to make a request, suggestion, or statement seem less demanding. For example, I know you're so busy right now, so you don't have to reply right away. I just wanted to check to make sure you're doing okay. Or to make a negative statement softer, you can say, I just think it's not the best time right now. Right, there we have it. In this episode, I shared a variety of ways to use conversation fillers to achieve different effects. As always, if you'd like more information, please check out the link in the description for the transcript of this episode. Thanks for listening. Until next time, bye.